UFOs were seen traveling over wide areas of the Southwest. In particular, hundreds of people saw a group of lights move over Phoenix, Arizona. Home to over 2.7 million people, Phoenix is a metropolitan oasis, not exactly a hotbed of UFO activity.
It didn't take off nationally until the USA Today article, and then it's just been gangbusters ever since.
This footage has been shown on every national news broadcast and provoked the government to give a series of plausible explanations, including military maneuvers and National Guard flares. But witnesses and experts alike are not convinced.
And looking at them, there was consistency with the brightness, but that was it. The flares drifted into one another. You could see them moving where these lights were suspended.
As I was coming down here, I was told that I shouldn't go. And this was a friend of mine who happens to be in the news media. And she said, I'm calling you because I want you to know that if you go down there, that everybody's going to label you as some kind of a lunatic or a kook or, you know, and they're going to really attack you hard. And I said, well, I've kind of been attacked about as much as you can, and there's really not much more that they can say, so, you know, what are you going to do? And she said, well, you know, this is going to destroy your political career. And I said, well, I'm not a career politician, so it, you know, really, you know, I'm going to go.
My opening remarks are to, first of all, congratulate the councilwoman for her bravery in coming forward in spite of admonitions not to. Many of us on this panel have been through precisely the same sort of warnings, the same sort of activity, and chosen to go ahead for many years in spite of the implications. And I want to tell you, it's a tough road, but it's certainly well rewarding.
We always tell people not to bother to come to any of our trainings if you want the ETs to be puppets on a string and put on a show for you and bring one of their little pretty aircraft around to twinkle its lights. It's simply not about that.
As to the question of ET existence, you probably may, some of you who are older, know that when I went to the moon 26 years ago, almost 27 years ago, it was the conventional wisdom, both theologically and scientifically, that we're still the biological center of the universe. And the great British astronomer Fred Hoyle made that observation at the beginning of the space era in 1957 when Sputnik went up, exactly 40 years ago this month. Copernicus disabused us of the notion 500 years ago that we're the geometric center of the universe, but we still insisted on believing we're the biological center. And that did persist up through the period of the early 70s, and I think few, if any, really thinking, knowledgeable people accept that thesis anymore. It is most likely that we live in a universe where intelligence has organized itself, life has organized itself, intelligent life has organized itself everywhere that environmental conditions permitted.
A series of private briefings had taken place that included the Director of Central Intelligence, the CIA Director, and senior White House folks and different members of Congress, as well as meetings at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and other places that I was asked to come to. And the result of it was that essentially the emperor had no clothes. For the most part, when people in government get up and say, you know, I really don't know anything about this subject, they're not lying to you. They don't. I mean, there's just no prevarication there. And that the management of the subject is in the category of a USAP, an unacknowledged special access project that operates ultra deep black and quite subterranean, and it's extensive.
If extraterrestrials come here, if they didn't want there to be a cover-up, there wouldn't be one. The human beings that I deal with in testing UFO evidence are perfect examples of the humans are not quite ready as a group without meetings like this, are not quite ready to step outside of a structure and say, you know what, I think I know the truth. I think I know the facts. I think I know how to live my life. And the extraterrestrial circumstance makes it so that you actually have personal freedom. It happens to me when I'm testing pictures. I have a sense of freedom when I know that this craft did not get made at Area 51. In fact, it didn't even get made in our time. So my opening statements are to, I hope not open a can of worms by presenting this hypothesis that the extraterrestrials are directly involved in deciding when there are just enough people at the tip of the iceberg that will go to the frozen worlds below and melt that just a little bit so that they can come and see more people.
In talking with government, the question often comes up, well, how could they have kept this a secret for so long? And friends, they haven't. It's been around us all the time.
One of the reasons why some of the people in Congress have been interested in this is because of the linkage between the reverse engineering of advanced propulsion and energy systems and that the benefit it would have for the global environmental crisis, which is deepening and decaying at an exponential rate.
Religions will have to revise their cosmology and their theology to take account of alien contact. I also think that they've scrambled a lot to try to do that or to try to figure out how to handle it. But as I said earlier, 20 years ago, both scientifically and theologically, it was the conventional wisdom that we were still alone. So it's been a real scramble here. Certainly science can come to grips with this much easier than theology can, but it does indeed affect our whole value system, priority, morality, sense of morality, and that's a part of the whole issue we're dealing with. What is an appropriate cosmology and its attendant values and morality that come with the understanding we're not alone in the universe?
The point is that I think on the whole, the mainstream religions really are more prepared than you might think to develop their cosmology, to accept the fact that, you know, if there is God and the universe is his creation or her creation, then the fact of the matter is that it would only add to the glory of God if we say that there are other intelligent life forms elsewhere. It doesn't detract from God at all. So I think that most people in the religious sectors and leadership I've met with have that perspective.
I don't believe we're going to be dealing with contact. I think we've had contact for several thousands of years. In my approach to this and in my research, I have concluded that we are not alone and we have never been alone. And I've also concluded that there has been what I call an intimate interrelationship between the human race and our friends and our family from the stars, probably from the beginning of our history.